So tomorrow is gearing up to be a crucial day in the future of Catalonia and its bid to break free from the rest of Spain. But it certainly hasn't been a straightforward process so far, and today was being described as a political farce. So what's likely to come next? Well, we're joined now from Madrid by Alana Moceri, who's international relations analyst and professor at the Universidad Europea de Madrid. Thanks very much indeed for talking to us, Alana Moceri. So the Catalan leader, Carles Puigdemont, today opted not to call for regional elections. Many had expected he would do that, and many thought that was a compromise solution. So why do you think he chose not to?
Well, there were protests. The original protests that were going to happen today in Catalonia were going to be being against Article 155. When they got the news that Puigdemont was about to go out and announce elections, they decided to make those protests against holding elections. He's also had problems within his coalition. His coalition was never a very likely coalition. You've got his party is a center-right party. You've got very far-left parties in it. And the very far-left party that is perhaps the most adamant about independence is unhappy with anything other than a declaration of independence. Others from his own party have been resigning today. So he's in a pretty sticky position at the moment. There's really no good way out.
Well, yes, and you mentioned there Article 155, and we should explain to everybody what that is. This is the Madrid government's threat to strip Catalonia of its autonomy, strip it of many of its powers, isn't it? Is that a foregone conclusion? Are they likely to push that through tomorrow?
Well, it's important to remember Article 155 is of the Spanish Constitution for all of Spain. That's important to remember, not just Madrid, all of Spain, which Catalonia is a part of at the moment. And yes, so it's an article that's very vague. If you read the language, it really doesn't explain exactly how it works, but it is a way for the central government to take over a territory should that need to happen. And it needs to be approved of by the Senate, which is what's been happening today as well. So it's been kind of a day where we're having whiplash between the Senate in Madrid and then the Parliament in Catalonia. But yes, so that's really an issue, and nobody on either side really wants to see Article 155 happen because it's kind of scary, and perhaps except for the very hardliner right wingers, a lot of which are in Madrid that are supporters of Rajoy's who want to see a very, very tough stance and see this whole what they see as a rebellion just quashed. Others in the center, we see the Socialist Party looking to find a way to perhaps approve Article 155 tomorrow, but find a way to phase it in somehow. And so it's not just an abrupt taking over of all administrative functions and of course, forcing the current government to step down.
So while that discussion's going on, we've also had the Catalonian Parliament debating their next move. That debate resumes again tomorrow. So what are the options open to them?
Well, and that's kind of the big question. You know, I was going through all the different statements and was going, what does this mean? You know, they're talking about a respuesta, an answer to what's happening in Madrid. And so there's kind of two ways to go. They can go ahead and make that declaration of independence, which is tricky because we know that the vote that took place on October 1st was not legal in the first place. We know that only about 42% of the people participated, which certainly doesn't delegitimize it, but it's not representative of Catalonia. And also there was all sorts of irregularities. So they've got that. And then the other side is they might opt to call elections. So that's another way they might be able to go. No one really knows. We haven't been given much of a clue as to what this actual vote will be on tomorrow. But there will be obviously some sort of discussion there and some sort of answer to what's going on. And it's all really, tomorrow's going to be another day of more whiplash between what's happening in Madrid and what's happening in Catalonia.
Well, yes, and how are people reacting to all of this? I mean, it must be pretty confusing for everybody. There doesn't appear to be a clear strategy really on either side. How are people responding?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. I say, you know, we've really got kind of two extremes. There's the people who want independence in Catalonia, which most polling finds it might be maybe half the people in Catalonia. We're not exactly sure. And then you know, there's people who are very sort of extreme right who are on the other side of it saying they can't leave Spain. and others saying, that the issue is, the real issue is that they can't take a referendum vote, a legal one, until Spain's constitution is changed. And that's something that is a conversation that needs to take place. And that's what most people in the center, most people in Spain support, that there can be a legal referendum and that Catalonia can decide their fate. But first, before that can happen, there has to be an open discussion. And it's a complicated one because, as we know, changing constitutions is always a very complicated business. But that has to happen first. And so it just doesn't work in a democracy that you just jump over the rules and say, well, this is what we want. This is how we're going to do it, even if it's not necessarily representing all the people of a region. And that's what Puigdemont is doing, in effect. And so, it's a tricky situation. Most of Spain, you'll find, is confused, too, and scratching their heads. I was looking through my Twitter feed before I came on and saw lots of friends and people who are actual political analysts who are also just scratching their heads. And so it's been a really difficult time.
Indeed. Well, thanks for making it clearer to us, at least, and a fascinating few days ahead. Alana Moceri, thanks very much indeed.
You're welcome.